gone through GDPR review with them already. And we're actually not just compliant ourselves, we're actively engaged with many of our large European and global customers to help them become GDPR compliant in their entire deployment, not just of our technology, but where our footprint is relevant. So I would say, as we bring more of our products online, we will be compliant with the regulations in all the markets in which we serve. I'll make a side comment, which is, we already are deployed in some of the most sensitive and business critical places in the world, whether that's governments with citizen data, or it's hospitals with healthcare records. We already hold ourselves to an incredibly high standard with regard to the regulations in which we operate and have to operate with all our customers to succeed. The rules are changing in cloud, and I think there are new governing bodies that are asserting their rights in different ways. And I would say we're actively involved, both David and I are in those conversations all the time. Peter Lefkowitz, who recently joined our company, is a privacy specialist and has, I believe, 4 talks in the next 3 days here. So if you want to talk to someone who has both been on the, let's say, industry side, but also on the regulatory side of establishing these rules, we're deeply committed to this area of investment. And then, David, you can probably comment from a corporate citizenship and governance perspective on how we view our overall compliance posture.
I think you pretty much covered it, though. I mean, we just take it incredibly seriously, whether it's from an internal Citrix point of view and the cultural elements that we embrace and have done for decades, but more importantly about how we're operating within, specific requirements that customers, industries, geographies, and others have. So it's just woven into an integral part of how we think about the company, how we think about delivering cloud services as well as, other services and data. So it's part of the fabric is the way I would think of it. From a most interesting, there's, if you think about technology landscape and the way people have deployed technology for a long time, it's been kind of an enabling thing so that you could do something. But nobody really stepped back and asked, what is that something you're trying to achieve? And, the companies that have really gotten it right, have really automated, more of an end-to-end process. And we talk about workflow, and the example at the very end about, stripping out notifications, for example. Because if you're on your phone, you don't want to go into Workday and look all the way through that application to approve something. You just want access to what you need to have done right away. And it's just one little example of the way the best in kind of what I call the best in class or the most inspiring that we've seen are really thinking about what people are trying to do and they're removing steps. It's kind of that old story of enablement's one thing, but if you can anticipate what they're actually trying to do and make it easier, people actually do it. There's so much research out there right now that shows that all of these different constraints we apply on people, not only is it killing productivity as we've described, but it is forcing this workaround, and this cycle starts all over again as you lock it down and then you work it around, and it's really hurting output. And so when I talk to CEOs right now, the number one thing on everybody's mind is about growth. And that's right at this point in time, everybody cares about growth in revenue and how we grow that. The second thing is around, when they think about productivity, it usually comes back to employees, their teams. In a business like Citrix, every point of turnover, for example, costs us about $7 million. One of my old jobs, I used to do math. And over time, what we can't measure, though, is the impact on engagement. Because this engagement idea is what's really driving output and productivity. You hear these terms like the 10Xers, the people that are just so productive. And usually it's about getting out of their way, just making it easier. Because regardless of whether we're talking about generational shifts and whatnot, people just want to get stuff done. They want to be empowered. They want to feel like they're contributing and what they're doing is important. And so when we talk about user-centric computing, people-based computing, and the idea of just finding a way to simplify it, that's at the core of what we're doing. Technology is awesome when you don't see it and you don't have to interact with it, but it just happens seamlessly. And so if we can apply those concepts universally, I think we can actually do something that is truly magical to unlock some of those trends. And you see, healthcare, as we just talked about, some of the IoT things they're doing, it's usually just to make it easier. And when you go down into the show floor, you'll see everything from scenario setup where people are walking into a doctor's office and the facial recognition happens and then it moves things automatically when they leave proximity takes it away. Just again, how do you remove steps out of the process? How do you make technology more of an enabler versus something that just exists?
I'll just comment because I think you hit on one of the key things that comes up in my conversations with customers in the briefing center, or even in the research that we read, which is employee engagement is something that IT believes they're struggling with. And I think they always, felt that there was something they could do better in the delivery of the IT infrastructure to improve engagement with employees. But it really wasn't until mobile devices and SaaS applications came in that they basically established a new benchmark for what it was like to have an app that was in use in your environment, that was engaging, and that drove users to be more productive and more committed to using it over time. And I think that new benchmark is now something that we're looking at broadly across the entire workspace experience and saying, what does it get to that level of consumer delight in an enterprise work setting with being productive and successful and thoughtful about the workflows that we expose to people so that they're more engaged and more productive in the environment.